Chapter 5. I lost track of time as night closed in around me. Shadows cast by the glare of the streetlights filtered through the living room in an ominous dance across my skin. Trendon had shut himself in the bedroom hours ago, and I had somehow managed to make dinner for Lilica and get her into bed, my motions fueled by a habitual sense of structure and a desperate anxiety that clawed at me. Nothing inside this house was normal anymore. But the fact that my daughter drifted off to sleep for one last night with the belief everything still was normal gave me a small, fleeting comfort I clung to as I paced alone in the dark. What am I going to do? That single howling thought raced through me like liquid fire, leaving my limbs shaking. Every minute grew closer to an inevitable reality. No matter what choice I made, I would lose my daughter. I bit back the crushing heaviness that pressed into me, my fingernails digging into my skin. How could Trendon do this? The question rose like a scream inside my head, my anger momentarily blanketing the panic that threatened to consume me. I knew our marriage had become nothing more than a fiction coated in meaningless platitudes and unspoken conditions, a facade I willingly played out while clinging to the vague hope he was still in there somewhere, buried beneath the compressing layers of indoctrination. How could I have been such a fool? There was nothing left for me here. My clinic and the work I did for cancer patients had been the only thing tethering me to this place, and now that was gone. It was all gone. With a sudden flash of clarity, I knew what I had to do. Standing outside her bedroom door, I noticed the light that had spilled beneath it all evening was now extinguished. Trendon must finally be asleep. I quietly cracked the door open and held my breath as my eyes fell to the dim shape of him in bed, motionless and breathing deep, as if completely unaffected by the events of the day. His ability to compartmentalize was mind-boggling, but right now I was thankful for it. I stepped into our walk-in closet and closed the door behind me. The overhead light flickered on as I grabbed my empty duffel bag that hung on a hook and began to throw various items of clothing into it. Winter sweaters mixed with summer shirts, an assortment of muted colors, my life now reduced to meaningless fabric, and the finality of my decision marked by the slow and deliberate sound of the zipper closing shut. Quietly closing the closet door, I pulled my phone from my pocket, using the glow of the screen to scan the room. There was only one way I was going to get past the checkpoints in town. I needed Trendon's Jeep, as well as his ID, which was stored on his phone. The rapid drum of my pulse thundered in my ears as I slowly picked up his ignition fob from the nightstand, the soft jingle of metal causing him to stir and roll over with a grunt. I froze with my hand in midair, clenching my eyes shut as if I could will him to stay asleep simply by the force of my own desperation. Everything rested on this half-thought-out plan forged from the claws of panic in the darkness of the living room. The sound of a light snore filled the room, and I let out a shaky breath as I leaned down and grabbed his phone. I glanced under the bed and cautiously peered into dresser drawers in the hopes I could find where he had hidden my medical bag. If I could remove the evidence, perhaps he wouldn't be able to place a charge against me. But my search turned up empty. With a frustrated sigh, I stared at the outline of Trendon, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest as my fingers twined around the gold band on my left hand, the metal abrasive against my skin. Yanking it off, I placed it on the dresser beside the bed like a silent goodbye, and quietly closed the door behind me. Making my way to Lilica's room, I opened the door, spotting her learning group pack in the corner. By the dim light of my phone, I packed only the essentials that would fit inside, hastily shoving clothes into the backpack. Holding another small bag I found in the closet, I surveyed her room, grabbing a few of her favorite toys and stuffed animals, trinkets and lifelines that would hopefully give her some sense of security as her world quickly shifted around her. Lilica slept with her arms splayed out, her face soft with sleep, and I crouched beside her bed, my hand hovering over the covers. I didn't want to wake her. I didn't want to pull her from her blissful state, knowing that once I did, her life would never be the same. Had I lost my mind? Perhaps I had. The mind I had tried for so long to adapt to this society was unraveling, leaving behind a trail I could no longer follow. Maybe this was what it meant to be free, to no longer care if you fit within the confinements of the world around you. Lilica, I whispered in her ear as I bent down and gently took her into my arms. Wake up, sweetie. Her eyes fluttered open, and she looked up at me in confusion. Mommy, what's wrong? I slipped on a smile, trying to cloak the fear I knew she could sense in my eyes. Nothing, hun. We're just going on a little road trip. I smoothed back the tousled hair stuck to her cheeks and wrapped her blanket around her shoulders. Doesn't that sound like fun? You've never been on a road trip before. She nodded, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. Where are we going? You'll see, it's a surprise. Standing from the bed, I picked up her backpack and bag. We're going to play a little game, okay? Okay, Mommy. It's called the quiet game. We're going to pretend we're tiny little mice in the forest and we don't want to wake up the wild kitty cat. So we're going to tiptoe so silently through the house. Does that sound like fun? Yes. She bounced off the bed and stood beside me, taking my hand in hers. Is Daddy going to play the game too? My breath caught in my chest, and a tangled guilt seized me. Even though her relationship with her father was strained, and he at times scared her, she loved him, and I was stealing her away from that love. But I could no longer allow her to grow up in a world so bleak it extinguished the fire inside her. She was my blood, my oxygen, and leaving without her had never been an option. No, Daddy's going to stay here and take care of the house. She squeezed my hand tighter, a sly grin creeping across her face. And I'm a mousie? Yes, love, you're the quietest mousie ever. I placed my finger to my lips as I opened the door and picked up our bags, quickly ushering us down the hall and through the darkened kitchen, with the blue glow of the appliances casting fragmented shadows across the floor. I typed in the code that disengaged the alarm and opened the door, the acrid scent of smoke filling the air as the automatic lock clicked shut behind us, like an ominous farewell. Clasping Lilica's hand, I strode briskly toward Trendon's jeep and opened the back door, lifting her onto the seat. But Mommy, I don't have my booster seat. Her voice grew loud, slicing through the stillness of the night. Shh! I placed my fingers to her lips. We're still quiet mice, remember? My heart pounded faster, an urgency pressing against me. There was no time to grab the car seat from the other car. A patrol unit could spot us out here. We had to leave. It's fine. You're a big girl now. You're not going to need your car seat for this trip, okay? I looked back at the house, my eyes skirting over the darkened windows before I placed our bags beside her, and softly closed the door. The Jeep silently sprang to life as I slid into the driver's seat and turned off the navigation tool, allowing me full control of the car. I looked back at Lilica as I placed my foot lightly on the gas pedal, creeping the Jeep forward and away from the house, away from the past 10 years of my life. I had loved him once, the kind of love that was quiet and small, like a tiny flame that could warm your hands but never heat a room. Perhaps I couldn't blame him for what he did. The government he so tirelessly worked for had become his only ally, a buoy in his empty waters. He had lost me a long time ago, or perhaps he never really had me at all. Glancing into the rearview mirror, the encapsulated world that had held me in its orbit grew smaller until I turned the corner and it disappeared from sight. My hands gripped the wheel, palms sweaty and mouth dry as I navigated the Jeep through the empty streets. There were 2 automated checkpoints through town, and each one would bring me closer to the rush of the highway, cradled in the vast stretch of mountain range. Mommy, the town's sleeping, Lilica whispered from the back seat. I know it is, sweetie. I had only been out once after dark, back when Trendon and I were dating. He had taken me on his patrol route, and I remember being unnerved by the stillness, as if the curtains had been peeled back on a stage, exposing nothing but an illusion. Paper cutouts and hollowed-out props, now lying lifeless without hands to move them. Approaching the first automated checkpoint, I scrambled around in my purse for Trendon's phone and pulled up his ID badge. The laser beam traced a harsh line across the car, bathing the interior in red, while my trembling hand placed the phone against the window, praying for the green of the clearance light. The gate swung open, and I let out a shaky breath as I crept past the metal bars, my eyes scanning the street ahead of me. The reality of what I was doing now came as a crushing blow to my gut as I drove through the checkpoint, and the anger inside grew stronger than the fear. In the end, Trendon had only been a catalyst for the severance I now realized I had always been longing for, like a heavy secret kept tucked deep inside me. waiting for release. I bit my lip, my eyes falling momentarily to my phone and nestled in my purse. I wanted to call Christina, to tell her what was happening. I expected Trendon to order a sweep of my medical office in the coming days, but I had no way to warn her. All phone calls were recorded and traced. Any attempt at communication would immediately make her complicit, and I couldn't risk going into the clinic and leaving her a note. I could only hope she would play dumb and that maybe she would be able to continue the alternative treatments on her own. A wave of sorrow washed over me as I thought of all my clients, of the man who had sat across from me from my desk the other day with pleading eyes. I couldn't help them anymore. A bright flash momentarily blinded me as a pair of headlights swept past my window, and my heart stumbled. Did they see me inside the Jeep? I knew this camouflage would only take me so far. The car slowed, and my pulse sounded in my ears, my chest constricting, as I prayed for them to keep driving. The black patrol vehicle slithered past like a soundless dark predator, and I held my breath, sinking low into the seat, my eyes trained to the road ahead. And then it was gone, its taillights like two glowing eyes in my rearview mirror. Relief washed over me. Just one more checkpoint, and then we'd be out of town, toward the safety of the open highway and dense forest, a place we could disappear into. I glanced over at Lilica, whose eyes were beginning to droop. Reaching back, I positioned the blanket around her. You go back to sleep, sweetie. We'll be driving for a while. The sleek, high-rise buildings that neatly lined the interior of the grid were now behind us, and the sparsely populated stretch of industrial factories slid past like giant steel mountains as we approached the last checkpoint. I held up the phone to be scanned. A tight band of apprehension constricted my lungs, my pulse growing rapid. Seconds now stretched between me and the highway, which I could faintly see beyond the gate. We were so close. Pale light appeared in the rearview mirror, and I turned around to see the faint glow of approaching headlights sweeping across the darkened landscape. No! I clenched the steering wheel, my fingers digging into the leather, lips moving in a silent, panicked plea as I stared at the sleeping form of my daughter. Please let us through. Please let us through. Green light flooded the car, and with a gasp, I lurched forward as the gate sprang open, my foot pressing down hard on the gas pedal.